Thank you, everybody, for joining us today for our SMART session. This is our product roadmap. I'm really excited that I get to share the screen today with our Director of Product, Natalie Howell. And she's going to show us some of the really exciting things that have recently been released, as well as give us a sneak peek, which is always my favorite part, into what's coming next. As you know, this is your customer experience team here to support you. So we have Erin also joining us today, as well as our marketing director extraordinaire, Kate. And Kat is always behind the scenes helping with support. So you can see your customer experience here, team here today to support you. And today's topics, you've got these 3 wonderful topics. I get to come back in at the end during next steps, just as housekeeping. If you have questions along the way, please feel free to post them in our chat. Erin and I, and even Kate, can jump in to help as Natalie's presenting. And we're happy to stay on afterwards if you have any questions or feedback for us. So Natalie, take it away.
Awesome. I am so thankful to be here today to give you guys kind of an overview of all of the cool features and improvements that we've released since our last meeting in September. And then also to give you a little bitty sneak peek into what's coming this spring. I think you'll be really, really excited by what we have to offer you guys. I do also want to say how amazing it is to work with this group of people. We're all on this call pretty much former educators. I was a former GradeCam user many years ago. So it's always nice to come in and work with this and help guys be more successful in your schools and districts for your students. So the excitement is here. So I'm going to start off in kind of the admin section. So I want to highlight some things, and then I am actually going to hop into the product itself to show you some new reports that we've created for you guys. As most of you know, if you're administrators, we have multiple methods that you can use to import your student information and your teacher information, your data, your rosters. Most of our clients use Clever or ClassLink, but we do offer what we call a manual import that can be scheduled or can be just uploaded from a file so that your districts can get set up with the kids in the correct classes. And we have made one big improvement that not only helps you guys, but helps us help you guys. And that is if you're doing manual imports, when you import that file, even if that file fails to import for some reason, we now, as you can see on the screen, have the ability to go in and pull up that import. And then we can actually click, you can see right here, clicking on the specific import, and then where it says file name is now a link. And that allows our support folks or our CX folks to be able to download the file that the school or district was attempting to import, and is much more helpful for us to be able to troubleshoot what might be going on. That is also accessible to you guys when you do the import, so that you can see, as we know, Excel sometimes drops leading zeros, and we don't realize that what we imported is actually different from what we might be looking at on the screen. So really helpful to help people troubleshoot what they're doing there. And then another super simple change that we made this year is to look at, you should see now the academic year dates in the top headers. And I just have the example here for all of the different modes. There's admin mode, there's school reporting mode, and then there's, of course, the gradient mode. And that is what everybody sees when they log in. We used to get a lot of tickets with people wondering why they weren't seeing correct classes and things like that. And sometimes it was actually based on the fact that the academic year wasn't current. So this allows folks to see that. And then we do also have the 4 schools and districts. If you're in your individual subscription, meaning you have your own personal subscription that you've created or created before, then it would say gradient for individual teachers. So that way you can be sure you're in the right application. Admin usage report. So this is something that I'm going to pop out and show you. On the left here, you will see Katie amazingly linked help docs and prior SMART sessions or anything like that, so that you get information about what's on the slide. But we were asked quite a number of times by grading administrators. So whether it's an instructional coach, whoever's managing the application, they want to know how people are using it. So we've gone in and created a couple of reports that give that kind of information. So in the admin mode area, if you have access to admin mode, if you click more here, there's a new tab here that says reports. If you don't have this access groups option, it will say reports right there. And if you click those reports on the left over here, you can see that you have two options. It starts you, oh, I got a badge. Yeah. It starts you on assignment usage, and then the other option is responses. Assignment usage is number of assignments by delivery method, and we just broke it up based on whether it was given on paper, whether it was given in the student portal, or whether it was done both ways, meaning some students on that one assignment took it in the portal, some students took it online on paper. And then we split it up by school. And then if you drill into a school, and this is demo data for us, you can see it will then show you by teachers, or you can change and look at it by class. You can also go in and pick a date range. So if you wanted to look at how this looked last academic year versus this academic year, or first quarter versus second quarter, you could totally do that and just change these dates to get the different visualizations. It also, if you sort down here, it will change the view. So the view will always align to the grid at the bottom. Assignment usage is one-to-one. A test is given on paper, a test is given online. Responses is actually how many papers are scanned. And this is a mechanism here. So you can see Kate has a lot of camera scans, meaning she's been scanning this way. Here is file scanning, meaning ran it on the PDF, on the copy machine, made a PDF, and then manual entry you have online, so student portal. And then if there are black areas, that is anonymous scanning. So that is only going to show up when you look at it by teacher. It's not going to apply to classes or to schools because it's anonymous, so we don't necessarily know where that goes. So these reports here are meant to give you guys the ability to look and see who your stars are, right? Who are the people who are really using the product well? And it can help you then go in and encourage those people to kind of spread that knowledge and help others use the product equally as well. All right. We also added the ability to import demographics from ClassLink. So if you're a ClassLink person, meaning you import your rosters from ClassLink, you can simply add that if it's not already coming over. ClassLink does use a one roster format, so they determine what how that data looks when they send it to other vendors, including Gradient. And for your records, here's a list of what those options are. If they're all populated, we will bring it all in. If only 2 are populated, we bring those in. So if you do want that data and you don't see it, the support doc is over here, and you can, of course, always reach out to our support folks. Big one we got asked for, co-teachers, especially in this post-COVID world. We see a lot more use of co-teachers, especially in the middle and high school areas. You can import them in 2 ways. Well, you can get them in 2 ways. One is through Clever or ClassLink. If you are using Clever or ClassLink, the only way that you can create co-teachers is if you have those co-teachers created in Clever or ClassLink. If you don't use Clever or ClassLink, we do now offer a way to manually create a co-teacher, and a co-teacher can scan assignments for the same class as their primary teacher. They can view the data just like the primary teacher. The only thing that they have to have is the assignment shared to them. They're not going to automatically have assignments shared back and forth. And you can see in the GIF that here I'm creating a class, I'm adding the ID, I'm selecting the school, I'm selecting the term. And you can go in and add the primary teacher, who's the kind of normal teacher there. And then you can add 1 or more co-teachers down here. And that is going to give people that access. If you've been using class groups to do this formerly, this is going to be a much more simplistic method for you to use going forward. Response distribution. So if you go to class overview, teacher overview, or school overview, I know class overview is one of our most used report pages. you should now see this response distribution. So it's literally a breakdown of how many students are performing in whichever performance bands you've selected. And then you still do get the information that was on the screen before, which is how many are turned in out of total students in that class. And I just put this little arrow here to show that little, we call them a caret, the little triangle, that's the average. If you hover over that, it will let you know what the average or mean was for that class. A lot better visual kind of representation of how kids are doing. Oh gosh, this one we got asked for so many times, and I'm so excited to say that we got it out. So you can now print forms for 1 class, 2 classes, 5 classes, 1 student, 2 students, 5 students, however you want to do it without those being in any form of a group. So that my example, I taught school 6 classes a day, same class. If I gave a test, I was going to give the test to all 6 classes. Now I can go in there and choose all 6 classes, hit print, and I'm going to get the forms that I need for each class clustered alphabetically, and make life a lot easier. So excited about that. Assignment improvement. So we've done a lot of what we would call quicker wins. So projects that we think are going to have a bigger impact, but that we can get more of them out so that we can meet more needs of our users. So one of them was adding the little number up here on attachments. Previously, you wouldn't know there was an attachment unless you clicked on it and saw the attachment. So now if you're in an assignment and there are attachments, you'll see the number of attachments that are up there. On the left-hand side, you can see now that you can actually drag a file for the attachments. That wasn't possible in that little modal before. You had to actually search in your computer and click the button to upload. So if you do have it open, you can simply drag and drop. And then on the right bottom, there are 2 things to be looking at. Number 1 is the standards now actually show not just how many standards. It used to say standards and it might say 3. And that would mean that there were 3 standards attached, but you didn't know which ones they were. So now you can actually see which standards are attached. And the other thing that keeps sliding out, at the top left, you'll now see an add button here. People used to kind of get confused as to how to add another question if you needed to. There are other ways to do it, such as clicking up at the top left or going back to the starting window. But now if you click add, you're simply just going to get another question at the bottom, and it's going to be in the default format of ABCD. So super, super excited. We also made a couple of changes here to assignment to number grid. The first change is now you do get a form preview. So prior to this, you didn't, you just chose all of your parameters or your options, and then kind of, would not know until you tried to do print preview as to what it would look like. So here, this form preview is going to show you if you do customize this, if you have specific characters, it will show exactly what you're going to see. So you don't have to do the form preview just to make sure you did it correctly. And then we did add the ability to save custom configurations. So if you use one regularly, we do have some states that have very specific number grids and that are on their state tests, and they want the students to always use those number grids. And prior to this, they would have to recreate them every time they made a test. Now you can absolutely go in there, save that default number grid, and then put it on whatever test that you'd like. So you're not having to recreate the wheel every time. Coming soon, and I'm separating this from the rest of the year because these are things that actually might even get released this week. They just aren't officially out in the wild yet. One of them is points per question at setup. And what that means is, and this is going to cycle back through here in a second. When you create an assignment here, you click create assignment, multi-question assignment, and then you'll notice after you type your assignment name, there's a new area right here called points per question. So if every question on your test is going to be 2 points, or in this case, 5 points, if you click save, you'll notice you've created an answer key with all your questions worth 5 points. The default is going to be 1 point, and you can absolutely change that once you're in to make them all 5 if you'd like to. Whether you add an answer or not, that is not going to matter anymore. You can absolutely go in there and set them however you want. The default is no longer going to be 0, which kind of makes more sense for it to be 1 for our use case. Okay. And then the rich text editor is, I was a science math teacher, chemistry for a while. And without a rich text editor is what we all see in any kind of word processing application that we use, whether it's Microsoft Word or Google Docs, the ability to do things like bold, underlined, italic, and for math and science, superscript and subscript. So that is something that should be out the door by the end of this week. And this is the ability for students in the student portal to use this rich text editor. So you can see the example you're looking at here is showing chemical equation. So it's using subscripts. Now, if you also teach with units, if you do grams per cubic centimeter or math, if you have exponents, students can absolutely type those basic functionalities in here. This will also be available in the teacher comment section. So when you're scoring assignments, if you want to respond to a student and say, actually, it should have been, you know, NaCl, or, you know, something with an exponent like, now I'm going back to my chemistry stuff, iron chloride, then you would be able to say, actually, no, this is the correct answer. You'd be able to put the correct exponent or superscript or subscript there. And then your students will be able to see kind of what you're meaning. So really, really excited about this. And this rich text editor is something that we can continue to add to. So if you get a little pop-up in the application, make sure that you click on it, because some of those will say, hey, what other features would you want in here? So such as bullets or alignments or anything like that. Give us that feedback, because we have a lot of flexibility in what we can add to this this toolbar. So coming, and these are things that we're working on through the rest of this academic year, so through summer. First one here is kind of an equation editor, which is going to segue into what we call a math equation response question type. So you saw in the previous slide that you will have the ability to use exponents, but of course, what if it's a more complex chemical equation, mathematical equation that you want your students to be able to do in the portal? The equation editor will become another icon in that toolbar. So if your students do need to type some sort of more complex math equation, they can do that. And then they can follow it up with written text that explains their answer, right? That's a pretty common question nowadays, is what is the answer? And then please explain your answer. That is going to segue to a new question type. We have currently numeric, which some of you may use. And you know, if the student types the word 4,000, we score it because you've typed in that answer. It doesn't allow for commas and, you know, all sort of exponents or anything like that. So coming will be an actual question type that does support that. So not only would the student have access to the equation editor, but the teacher would have access to the equation editor in order to create the answer on the key. And as long as what the student types is the same as what the teacher types, then it will automatically score those things. That is leading to a really cool new feature that we're looking into, where we will be able to digitize, and that's kind of the screenshot at the bottom. So you can see a kid wrote an answer, and then that answer is digitized, and then from there can be scored. So thinking of a math equation response question type as an online test, right? You assign it in the portal, the student uses the equation editor to type. You will also be able to give that kind of a test on paper, have the student write their equation in the box, and then when you scan it, the system will digitize it and score it. So really giving that flexibility. I know a lot of math teachers and science teachers, including myself, really liked to give kids the opportunity to write on paper. And this will allow you to do that, but still get the benefit of the auto scoring, which I know is huge in terms of time savers. And then the last thing I don't have an image of, but I wanted to talk to is a kind of PLC collaboration tools. We do know from having lots of conversations with teachers all across the country that the ability to look at data collaboratively across common assessments is an amazing tool to help improve student outcomes. And in order to do that, you do have to have access to student data that the kids might not be your students. So we are working on some really cool ways for you guys to be able to share data and give people access to data that you want them to have access to, but still having the ability to protect PII. So maybe not see student names or not see any information about the students, just to see kind of aggregate data around how did kids answer this question, or how did students do on this test on average. You know, student privacy is a very big topic in today's world, and we want to make sure that we are doing everything that we can to keep that in mind as we work. With these things going forward, you'll see at the bottom here, I put, we want your help. We cannot do this without your input. We, you know, as a company, we are building this product to help you, teachers and students, be more successful. And we need your help to know that what we're building is what you need. So please, there's a Google form behind this. You'll have access to this slide deck after the fact. It's also on the last slide. Sign up to be a product partner. We will reach out to you and potentially ask to chat with you or offer you some images or kind of prototypes of things that we're working on, and get that feedback from you. Again, it's super essential, and we look forward to talking to you. So Katie, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much. I was jumping up and down. You just couldn't see me with the math equation response editor. I'm channeling all my math teacher friends and all of the leaders I've talked to, and science folks, not to leave out our science folks. So it's super exciting. Just for next steps, if you haven't already received them in your inbox, or you want to pass along some of these resources to folks that you work with, we do have a newsletter that kind of wraps around this theme of our product roadmap and resources that you can use to kind of extend your usage of Gradient. And as you noticed, as Natalie was showing her screen, a little badge popped up that she dismissed. We wanted to give you a heads up. You're the first to see that. We are releasing badges throughout our system that you'll see over the course of the next 2 months to kind of honor and celebrate all of the hard work that teachers and leaders are doing within the platform. And we're looking to acknowledge, work towards using our assignments throughout an assessment cycle. So you'll see badges for things like creating assignments or adding standards. You'll also see badges for rewarding teachers for being reflective and looking at data. So there's badges around accessing our reports. And then also we really wanted to acknowledge all the teachers out there that are giving feedback to their students in the moment. So you'll see student connected badges as well. So take a look at those. The image here is linked to our support article that gives you a little more information about the program. And then I think the very last slide is just a list of all the smart sessions we've had thus far. If you've missed any, feel free to go to our smart session page to view previous sessions or sign up for new ones. And then our last page has just our support information and Natalie's link to the product partner registration. She really does mean it. She loves talking, her and her team love talking to teachers and leaders using the tools. And as you can imagine, we all have different opinions about things. So it's really helpful to talk to folks, live, at least on Zoom, and find out what you're thinking, what your use case is, how it will impact the work that you do. So definitely take her up on the offer to become a product partner. It's a great experience. Yes. So thank you for joining today. I will stop the recording and feel free to stay on if you have any questions.